Good morning. I'm Lisa Benson, co-president of the League of Women Voters of Oregon and a proud member of the Lincoln County League. Welcome to the League of Women Voters Oregon Youth Council Civic Engagement Summit. On behalf of my co-president, Becky Gladstone, and the board of directors, we hope you have a productive and enjoyable day. Please allow me to recognize a few people. Deanie Bouliard, Youth Council Event Chair, for her work in putting this event together not once, but twice, due to the weather in January. Behind the scenes, Abby Hertzler and Sarah Andrews, our state league staff, have played an active role in planning and are with us today. And finally, our presenters, who you will hear from soon. All of us here at the State League would like to acknowledge the innovative work that the Youth Council is doing. I've been told that some of the highlights are their passion and determination to create positive change and encourage their peers to do the same. Their dedication to providing a diverse and inclusive space for members of the Youth Council. Their willingness to meet folks where they are and adjust accordingly to their outreach efforts, and their commitment to foster learning through collaboration. Lastly, please allow me to acknowledge the dedication of the League of Women Voters of Oregon Youth Outreach Mentor Team, Diana DeMaria, Mimi Alkire, and Elizabeth Kirby. Along with the founding members of Youth Outreach, they have created a youth-focused group that is spreading the purpose and passion of the League of Women Voters to youth, not only in Oregon, but also nurturing collaboration with neighboring states. Enjoy your day.
Yeah. Do we need a microphone when we do? You have to speak right up. Do you want to bring up my slides?
Hey y'all, well, we're pulling slides up. I'm Deanie. I don't know if y'all on the internet can see me from here. Is that
okay? You should be good now.
cool?
Okay, here we go. Put this through.
This is awesome. This is so cute.
Sorry, everyone, just working through all those like little last minute tech issues here.
This is really cute. I love this.
Alrighty, so are you good if I take it?
Yeah,
The
go
house.
ahead.
All right, so just a few housekeeping items as we kick off the day today. For those of you who are joining us in person, we have some snacks and drinks in the back of the room. If you need the restrooms, they are located just out the doors back there on the opposite wall. We do have breaks scheduled throughout the day, but if you need to get up and move around, please feel free to do so. If you have any questions or need anything, please come find me or Diana in the back of the room. We do have some brief Q&A time at the end of each presentation, but we will have a longer facilitated Q&A session at the end of the day. So please feel free to write down your questions, or if you are joining us online, you can throw them in the Q&A in the chat or using the Q&A form link. For those of you joining us virtually, we've given really specific attention to ensuring that your virtual experience is super immersive. So throughout the day, we'll be moving in and out of some breakout rooms. Please feel free to pop in and out as you're able throughout the day. And then again, please put any questions in the chat box. We also invite you to share your name, pronouns if you're comfortable sharing those, and also where you are located. And we can do next slide. probably go 2 slides.
So we're going to talk a little bit about community norms. So we're coming into this space bringing our full self. So for our virtual attendees, when you're in breakout sessions, we invite you to participate. Obviously, it's not required, but and we do understand that some folks are more comfortable than others, and that's okay. So participate as much as you're comfortable with and leave space for other people to speak up if they need.
So the other thing that we want to keep in mind today is that no one knows everything, but together we know a lot. So it's okay to not know the answer, and we hope that you can learn from our youth council and each other as we explore advocacy today.
This is my favorite phrase to say, but don't yuck someone's yum. It just means if someone likes something that you don't like, it's okay. We won't all agree with everything. And so be respectful and listen and learn and be okay to disagree with one another.
And then finally, oops, ouch, and listen to learn. So it's so important to assume positive intent. But with that said, we all do make mistakes. And so if something that you say or do hurts someone else, or you are hurt by someone else's words and actions, even if the intent wasn't there, listen to learn and be willing to apologize or share your feelings on the matter and then move forward in collaboration. And then we also just want to acknowledge and thank our supporters that made this possible today. So thank you to Oregon Humanities and the National Endowment for the Humanities, as well as the League of Women Voters of Oregon for providing the support to make this event possible today. So with that, we will start moving into our first workshop. Thank you.
Oh, I apologize, everyone. I did not realize that I was muted. Thanks to everyone in attendance today. Our opening workshop today will focus on advocacy in the digital space. We'll explore ways to use digital spaces to increase advocacy work and share strategies to combat misinformation and disinformation. We'll get started with our introductions. My name is Evan Tucker. I'm a junior at the University of Oregon studying political science and legal studies. I'm the youth voter strategist for the League of Women Voters of Oregon. I'm an Oxford Human Rights Fellow, UO Legislative Scholar, and Civic Engagement Program Assistant at the Holden Center.
My name is Ronan. I go to the International School Beaverton and I am in my freshman year. I am the League of Women Voters Youth Council policy chair. I first got involved in 6th grade as a social media activist. Since then, I volunteered on state, local, and federal campaigns, and I'm currently working with multiple organizations and campaigns aside as my work as a student.
Hi, everyone. My name is Charlie. I serve on the DEIJ committee here at the Youth Council. I'm a junior at Sandy High School, and I'm involved with Next Up Action Team and Students Advocating for Equality, which is a collective in Sandy. I also am a varsity golfer. I have a passion for journalism and really love the color purple. So.
Maybe it looks like has joined us yet. So if there's anyone else wants to go ahead.
Is Lucy here?
I am seeing Lucy now.
Cool. So today we'll be talking about misinformation, disinformation, and technology. So as our world becomes more digital, so does the information we consume. Around 50% of Gen Z consume their news from social media, according to a study done in August 2022 by Statista. And this is a double-edged sword, because on the one hand, it gives alternative perspectives on current events, but on the downside, information can also be misleading if unverified. So why is this important? Misinformation and disinformation can lead to extremism, and unregulated social media can lead to disinformation and distrust in our own democratic systems. It's important for youth to be accurately educated on topics and current events, both to support our beliefs in these systems and to form accurate viewpoints that are based on fact. In order to be good advocates and/or constituents, we have to be informed and aware of the media that we consume. So what is it and what is its impact? So what is misinformation? Misinformation occurs when someone unintentionally shares false information without the intent to harm. And then an example is your friend says that the latest local bill will raise taxes because that's what she saw on a social media post. Whereas disinformation is when someone intentionally shares false information with the intent to harm. So an example is your friend lies, telling you that the latest local bill will raise taxes because she knows that's the only way you won't support it.
And then what is the difference between misinformation and disinformation? Because they are similar. They both refer to the spread of false, misleading, or out of context information, but they're not exactly the same. The main difference between the two is whether they are spread with the intent to harm or deceive. Misinformation is false, misleading, or out of context information that is spread without the intent to harm or deceive anyone and could be, a mistake. However, disinformation is spread with the intent to distort the truth or to harm or deceive people for the purpose of, essentially, lying. So examples of misinformation could include satirical news or like a reporter error. An example of disinformation could include hoaxes, conspiracy theories, or editing a video in a way that takes it out of context. Misinformation and disinformation both have the potential to be extremely harmful. In recent years, misinformation and disinformation have especially disproportionately impacted information about elections. Both have contributed to inaccurate information about the election process, leading to voter disenfranchisement and damaged trust in our democratic voting system. According to the Brookings Institution, misinformation and disinformation is often spread about polling, ballot locations and times, voting requirements, and how to register or cast your ballot to vote. The implications of this show that decreased trust has led to decreased civic engagement. That's from the Brookings Institution and the Brennan Institution for Center for Justice and identifies that it's often spread about polling ballot times and locations, voting requirements, and how to register. And it doesn't just impact elections, it can also impact so many other, institutions. For example, like public health could be, a major way that it impacts. And then the next section of this is the verification and counter action against misinformation and disinformation. So I'm gonna pass it over to Evan.
Hi, everyone. So I'll be talking about how to identify and verify information. Social media is a useful tool for sharing information. While it often contains helpful and accurate information, it is also subject to mis and disinformation. Keep an eye out for superlatives like only, all, no, and no one. This can be an easy way to quickly identify potential mis and disinformation. It's also important to find where the post originated or the primary source, which can help in verifying the info that you find on social media. As well, it's important to ask questions. Always ask them. Even elected officials or credentialed individuals can share mis and disinformation due to confirmation bias, which is the tendency to favor information that confirms or strengthens a person's belief. Using open-ended questions to elicit more information and clarification from the sources and stakeholders is important in verifying whether information is accurate. Ask yourself, who says? How do they know? Are they biased? What don't I know? It's also important to research before you repost. Reposting online can be beneficial if it's done right. Reposting information that cannot be verified contributes to the spread of mis and disinformation. If you repost something that you later find to be untrue, it's important to let people know. Take down the post or image, inform your followers that you mistakenly shared information that you've learned to be misleading or untrue, and cite your sources that counteract the information, and ask any followers who also shared the information to join you in combating the mis and disinformation. So how can we counteract incorrect misinformation? Cite reliable sources. Citing reliable sources is important to counteracting mis and disinformation being spread. According to UGA libraries, a reliable source will provide a thorough, well-reasoned theory, argument, etc., based on strong evidence. Reliable sources include government websites, scholarly and peer-reviewed articles and books, and trade or professional articles or books. We should also be increasing our ability to understand statistics. A 2016 Research and Data Insights survey found that 88% of Americans are more likely to trust a source accompanied by a chart or data analysis. Yet, only 34% of Americans were able to analyze whether the data was relevant or plausible. Charts or data analysis can be manipulated or taken out of context to support a bias. Data literacy helps individuals to determine if cited data gives an accurate look at the topic. Taking a basic statistics class at your school, university, or even through your local public library will increase your data literacy and help you to distinguish and counteract misleading charts or data. You also want to build trust and credibility. When it's appropriate to actively refute mis or disinformation, building trust, understanding, and credibility is important. A 2017 study shows that individuals are more likely to respond to corrections of mis and disinformation if it comes from someone they know. Another key to counteracting mis and disinformation is understanding the recipient. According to a Sage Journal article, the success of correcting mis or disinformation depends on the recipient and their relationship to the information being corrected. Strong prior beliefs determine the way that humans process new information. This means that if someone had a deeply held belief that is backed up by mis and disinformation, it becomes harder to counteract those beliefs. When this is the case, repeated conversations that center empathy and calm dialogues are important. We also want to set boundaries and realize that one conversation may not change a person's belief, but it does lay the groundwork for continued dialogue. And next up will be Nivi.
Hi everyone, I'm Nivi, I'm online. I am assuming that my peers have already introduced themselves, but as I said, I'm Nivi. I'm the Youth Advocacy Chair for the League of Women Voters Youth Council, and I will be presenting different methods to advocate in digital spaces. So the first one we have is social media. Apps like Instagram, X, and TikTok can be very helpful. And with these apps, information can spread very quickly while also being accessible. Again, this is sort of like a double-edged sword, because if information can spread very quickly, then misinformation and disinformation can also spread very quickly. So just when putting information out online, be careful to, employ the techniques that my fellow youth council members have already discussed. Within social media apps, there are specific ways to garner engagement. This can include hashtags, link trees, collaborating with other social media accounts, and using songs that are very popular on the app. And just, this is like a really good way to make sure that the correct information does get out. All right, the second method is webinars. Webinars are any sort of online presentation on a topic, and they're a useful tool because you can teach people or inform them of something in an advocacy lens, or this can be just teaching people a certain type of advocacy organizing skill, or just raising awareness about a certain topic. But the point is that the webinars are really very versatile, and it's really valuable because you can further your cause by teaching someone else how to work towards it, or inspiring them to do their own thing, hence promoting the spread of correct information. Okay, and then next we have online forums. Forums are any sort of gathering online when people can discuss certain topics, do activities together, and learn from each other. They are different from webinars though, because forums tend to be more interactive, whereas in webinars you just tend to be sort of presented to. These are good for meeting other like-minded people that you can sort of recruit for a cause or learn from, or meeting people who don't agree with you and learn what the other side thinks to better strengthen your argument. You can spectate in these or you can participate, and there's typically two types of forums: those that are expert-led and those that are more informal discussion-based forums. So whatever you feel like would be most conducive to learning or spreading your message is what's right for you. And then the next one is video engagement. Video platforms that are advertised online get a lot of traffic. One example of this is like YouTube. This means that a lot of videos, no matter the length, are helpful in reaching new groups of people. Videos can help inform, persuade, and make light of topics. And again, as Evan said, just make sure that you cite sources to build credibility, regardless of what type of video you're posting. And again, just fact check your sources, because since the real thing with online platforms and webinars is, since information can spread so quickly, I'm just going to reiterate, it is super, super important to make sure that what you are saying is correct, because so many people will be seeing it. And the next one is digital communication. As many more people can be reached online, digital communication is vital for virtual advocacy and organizing. This can range from simple mailing lists to group chats to reaching out through others through websites. Don't be afraid to reach out. You can discover a lot of things so much just by asking. The worst that will probably happen is that you won't get a response, assuming that you're using a trusted website. Please do not put your information in sketchy looking websites. People can actually use that to spread misinformation and disinformation, so just please don't do that. If you're trying to reach others, you can also convey a lot of information by organizing facts and advocacy efforts in structured messages, just like in informational newsletters and such like that. And the last method is resource distribution. That is good for the sake of more asynchronous advocacy, as these are things that people can investigate for themselves and just use as they might. They're also potentially helpful in other ways, such as hotlines for support, or to help people set up their own initiatives and stay informed. Another great thing about online advocacy is that it inspires other people to help spread their message in their own way that works best for them, so more people feel welcome in a community. And these can be resources that you curate from other people and are usually distributed by one of the methods that I talked about. And just like a word of warning, whether it is that you're curating resources from outside places or making your own resources, make sure all your information is accurate. And that's a really great way to prevent mis and disinformation. And just another thing that is important in presenting the correct information is just make sure that it's presented in a polished and trustable way that's inviting for people to sort of peruse as well as believe. And overall, there's just like really a lot of ways to engage with others online, whether it's researching or putting together social media. All of these aspects in this day and age are really crucial to success in organization and advocacy in digital spaces. And I will hand it over to Charlie and Evan now.
Oh, there it is. Yeah, so now we have some time set aside for anyone if they have any questions. Yeah. Yes, Celine.
Is the most effective social media, or like if you know, for advocacy?
Personally, I would say TikTok within social media for discussing apps. It's short form content, and people can easily come across it, get points across. You can include different information, and it's a lot more adaptable than other forms of social media like Instagram or Facebook.
Oh, here, yep, you're good.
Do you guys think there's something like a partisan shift to what is misinformation or disinformation? Like, if you think about like purchasing Twitter and then suddenly, you have control over what's considered misinformation or disinformation. So, what do you think about that?
Come over here and answer that.
Could you repeat your question?
So like when Elon Musk purchased Twitter,
Yeah.
suddenly he had control over like what is misinformation or disinformation. So how can we kind of
I think ultimately that's up to corporations just to decide what is objective under the status quo and what is fair. I know that there's like systems in place to accurately regulate social media. But I think if one is like intending to harm a group of people or intending to persuade based on false information, then that's what separates it from disinformation, compared to just trying to persuade someone to your side. Yes, hi.
So, like with the current state of our government, it's very, very polarized. Like, can we even trust the politicians anymore?
Sure, you can answer.
Okay. I think there is a point to be made that there is often facts can be misconstrued. So to say to completely or not trust politicians, I think to there has to be some level of trust, but there also have to any information that's put out by anyone should be met with some level of trust and some level of scrutiny, right? So you have to scrutinize that, and I think it is important to make sure that we have fact checkers out there and independent organizations who are looking at what politicians are saying and saying, well, is that true or is it not? So
Actually, I think.
Answer that one. Evie, go ahead.
Okay, just adding on to what Ronan said is definitely also do outside research yourself, but again, be careful of what sources that you're using. When it comes to misinformation and disinformation, really just being careful is the name of the game. And if you're not sure yourself, just ask someone else who you think might know better. yeah, that was all I had to add to that question.
Are there any other questions in the room before we go to the chat? Yes, Chris.
So like on social media, there's kind of an incentive to like say more outrageous things because, you know, it gets more attention. So do you think there's like what kind of philosophies can we adopt in our own posting that would kind of help like not do that?
So Chris was asking that a lot of people, they'll purposely put out mis and disinformation because it gets a lot of attention and brings engagement. And he was asking, what can we do in our social media posts to kind of counteract that? Is that correct? Yeah.
You look at a situation to not take an extreme position, but rather to like work to build consensus.
In the post that you make, I'm not sure that you can simply counteract someone else's ability to make that information. That is typically the social media company's regulation, but it's just important to take control of yourself, make sure you're citing sources, understanding the statistics, and really reading into things so that you have a good grasp of what you're saying.
I think adding on to that too, just if something is like super sensationalized in the media really quick, sort of watching how quick your response time is when you post something.
Okay, and then the one thing I would add to that is also, if someone is putting out this information, what's important is that you're not joining in. You're right. So if you see something that is so blatantly false or just insane, don't like it because it's insane. Don't like that post is what I would say. You don't want to boost that more. In terms of, again, it really depends on the social media company, and a lot of them do have, they'll add context below, and so that helps. But yeah, I mean, people read things and they a lot of times we assume it's true. So there's not really a right way to counteract that other than my advice would just be making sure that you're not boosting that further because that's what that's what gets views, right? So
Yeah, so someone said, did I hear them say that they prefer TikTok? Would any of them be willing to coach us in learning how to use it most effectively? So Lucy Robb, from my understanding, who is not here, she is one of our social media coordinators. She's putting together some stuff on kind of coaching people on how to use certain social medias more effectively. Are there any other questions in the chat that I've missed? Cool. Yeah, I think that's it for this specific workshop. Yeah.
Yeah. We have here to hang out with y'all. I can hear myself somewhere in there.
Thank you all for zooming in. We hope the day is interesting.
Hope you guys enjoyed the first amazing workshop led by Evan, and thank you. Amazing people.
I do my best.
It was really helpful information to me because I'm not a social media user by choice for a long time. But
Yeah.
if you don't mind, I'll ask a question. How much time do you people spend on social media in a day?
Maybe like an hour, actually.
Lucky. I'm gonna look at my screen time.
I spend like 3 hours on my phone a day or 2 hours. But
Flying.
oh, I'm serious. I can check.
Screen time. I think I spend probably in reality like 2.5 hours on social, if I'm being honest with myself.
So it's a complete waste of per day? No, you're good. You're good. I realized I left my backpack and stuff over here.
Mine, I apparently took my screen time off. I can track. I think I probably spend 6 hours a day on my phone.
Wow, self-control king.
But most of that time is if I'm like I like listening to like podcasts or YouTube. I like as I go to sleep, that's playing for like an hour, so that's like time. Or like I'll be referencing like homework things. So it's not all just on social media. I'd say probably spend 3-4 hours on social media a day.
I'm pretty busy. Like I'm always running around, so I spend a lot of time on my laptop, typing away.
Okay, so
Yes.
podcasts sound as social, they count as social media podcasts?
Well, or YouTube. I'm just saying like it just like screen time specifically.
Consumption of media.
Because even if I'm on like Instagram or something, I use that as like a form to like text my friends a lot. So sometimes like a lot of my screen time is spent just texting my friends on Instagram, and that counts as time spent on social media. I don't scroll on Instagram that much. Most of the scrolling I do is on TikTok, and I'll passively do that for like an hour and a half to a day. That's probably my most used social media.
One of the best choices I ever made was deleting TikTok. I don't know, it doesn't work.
I might follow you in that. Yeah. I think it's like
It's very addictive.
It's so addictive.
the AI like filter, like the new AI that they're using that like gets you like sucks you in is like too accurate. It's very addicting. It's very scary. It's a good thing because there's gonna be growth and we can all become more mindful and self-aware of our habits.
So if the league were to send out action alerts through social media, at first I was hearing you say we ought to use TikTok. What would you recommend?
Wow, that's a great question. Action alerts being like, write to the legislature and do
Right.
this.
Uh-huh.
I think a little video, like we could do that, like explaining the issue and then saying, we urge you to vote or to, write into the legislature.
Like this is
And I think a little video on TikTok would spread and young people would participate. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
So I understand, I've heard you need to use like songs and dances and stuff like that. Is that necessary?
I don't think so. I don't think so. I think I don't know.
Be able to do a video, like a 10-second video of us just talking about like an issue and doing an action alert that way. That could be really effective if that's what.
Yeah, like I just saw that there's new campaign finance rules proposed in Oregon. And I think that young people can understand that and would definitely support that. So I think that's a really cool idea.
Yeah, for Instagram, you could just do like anything. I feel like Instagram is a lot easier to post something to. With TikTok, it's a little harder because it's like in a video format, short form format. So,
but they are short videos.
Yeah. So yeah.
Well, I think we should take it on as a youth.
There's like a mini form of like Gen Z for change in the format. They do things where they have like one person say a sentence or two information and goes to a different person.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
We could make it more fun. Like, let's go real in the Capitol building with like vote. Like that.
So then
Stand on my shoulders, I'll throw you off.
Okay.
So the way you get people to notice it is through hashtags or what?
Yeah, I think hashtags is a really effective way to gain traction. I think as well as just interacting with people, like-minded people and organizations. Like I know like Gen Z for Change or politicians on TikTok. A lot of politicians have developed these TikTok accounts, so it's easy to connect with the people that you want to.
Also, I think the algorithm would just kind of recommend political media, and then they have it they'll recommend Oregon content to Oregonians.
Yeah. AI is getting very accurate. Yeah.
It spread like wildfire.
Yeah. If the league is like a
Sorry.
Oh yes.
When does the our panel start?
11:20.
11:20. So what is everyone's roles on the league? Mimi, I know yours.
I'm a social policy chair coordinator, and also co-chair of the action committee. This is
Cool.
Jean Pierce.
Nice to meet you.
Nice meeting you. I think you guys are going to add a lot to what we do and magnify our voice. I'm so excited about the fact that you're part of this.
Yeah, we really enjoy it. It's been such a learning experience. It's kind of like the first like club or council that or organization, the youth council that I've ever kind of founded. So it's been really cool watching it grow along with Celine, because obviously she's the president.
It's been a wonderful experience. I love the youth council so much, and I love all the opportunities and experiences I've gotten from it, like connecting with amazing people like you.
Celine is applying to colleges.
Oh,
Yes,
I think I know where she should
that's
go.
got to be a strong point on a college application.
Yeah, it's been I'm very thankful for the opportunities. I think intergenerational activism along with voting, combating voter suppression is super important, especially among our generation.
That's what
I
I'm
remember-
wondering. How discouraged would you say your friends are about, when they see two old guys running for president, are they going to vote?
Oh boy.
Having so many conversations with so many people around that. And I think that it is so important. It's never been more important for us to vote, if anything, because it's everything, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. They are very discouraged. It feels like our vote doesn't make a difference, and it should, and it does.
Yeah. I struggle with this a lot. I try and get many of my roommates to get registered to vote, but they just become so discouraged with things that they see our elected officials doing, and they're like, whatever's gonna happen, it's not gonna be good either way. So why even waste my time? It's because they don't feel represented by their elected officials.
And it's interesting because our generation is so political, like with social media and just our beliefs. But I think voting isn't the preferred method of
Do you
getting
think
that out.
you could create a TikTok motivating them to vote?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
Maybe
absolutely.
we'll start a youth council.
Yeah, and we'll share it. Yeah. I don't know, because it's kind of hard to do it in a nonpartisan way because you have to explain like what your vote counts for and like the issues at hand.
Well, now partisan just means that you're supporting one of the candidates or another, but you can talk about issues that are important to people.
Yeah, like say this is what your vote matters for. This is the
Right,
issues that are on the
right.
ballot. Choose how you like. But vote. Yeah, I like that. Celine's making a TikTok right now, an account.
You
Are
make
you
it so
hearing?
easy.
Excuse me. Are you hearing anything from your families, the generation before you, that this is a really different time, and that our politics are not the same as they were in the past, and that things are so emotionally charged? But when you say voting is not the preferred method for your generation, I'm curious, what would be a way that you could effect change if it's not voting?
Well, it's not that I think voting shouldn't be the preferred method. I just think young people are so you know, they prefer protesting or posting on their story. And I think that does make a difference because you can see it changing the dialogue, but I don't think it helps make things less polarized. Yeah, I think, and it doesn't help make things less emotionally charged. I think voting does that by
Yes.
by actually influencing policy and making.
You should be recording what you're saying and then using that in a TikTok.
Yes.
That's good. Yeah.
And just being aware of who you're trying to create policy with. You have choices all along the way.
Yeah, absolutely. And you kind of need to build consensus and coalition.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
What's that one guy from North Carolina? He's not a senator, but I love that guy. He's running for Attorney General, I believe. He just won the primary.
Yay.
Yeah, when I applied for internships in DC last year, talking about my experience with the league really helped me get
Jeff
it.
Jackson. Yeah, I guess a congressman that comes to mind when you really think of like engagement on TikTok. He's a freshman senator. No one really ever heard of him.
Congressman.
Congressman Jeff Jackson. He has 2.5 million followers, and he just goes through with transparency when he gets home and talks about this is what's happening today. This is my perspective. This is what I see, and it creates a lot of just like
It's not polarized, it's not extreme.
yeah, and it just makes people like understand what's going on, and it feels more real because a lot of people you feel disconnected from your representative and senators and who they are. They just feel like robots, and Jeff makes them seem like a real person. And when you feel like you're voting for someone that actually cares about you, you're more likely to vote.
I think that's also probably why so many young people like AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. One, she's young, but also she really engages with people on social media and just kind of chats directly with voters. It's kind of like the fireside chats that who was that? FDR had in a modern era, because it's the like biggest, largest audience of voters that you can reach out to.
When the House was voting to see who they wanted to be the speaker, the original time, or the 13 or whatever it was, in between, AOC would go on Instagram live streams and I'd see and listen to what she was saying, her perspective, what it like, where they're currently at in the vote, where she thinks it's going to go. It was just very interesting to get that kind of like, inside scoop a little bit of what's going on.
Yeah. But also social media and the media in general can really change what people are thinking about when it comes to politics. Like when I was interning in DC, it really depended what was on the news, what constituents were calling about, because I would take the calls. I'm just reading the chat. And it was really like what was on Fox News, that's what people were calling about, or what was on CNN, that's what people were calling about. So it's just super interesting to see the way people's interests are kind of formed by the media.
That's interesting that you were taking calls. I understand that people can get pretty nasty in their calls. Is that
Definitely. Yeah. Because I mean, when people don't really call their congressman or congresswoman when everything's going well, Sometimes we got calls like, oh, I just want to say you're doing such a great job. but also, yeah, there were a lot of people who would just, yeah, I mean, people call when they're upset, but also it is part of civics and it's important to listen to them. And also people would call when they needed help with something like Social Security. So that was really cool to know that we were kind of directly helping people.
So if you call in and say, hey, I really want you to vote for the John Lewis Voting Rights Act,
Yeah.
would someone in your position who was answering the phone call, would you take notes about why, or would you just tick off, hey, here's a yes vote?
I would take notes about why. Yeah. You kind of transcribe the call. And then but then when we kind of forward it, what's most important is like John Lewis Voting Rights Act, yes.
How often do
But
those
we do
calls-
record pretty much most of what you would say. We're just there typing away. I think most important is establishing constituency, as you probably know. So like saying your zip code and your name. It's kind of been a while since I've been in that setting. I was there this summer. But yeah, we record what you say, or we type it up. We don't record the audio.
How effective are those calls in influencing how a representative or senator will vote?
I would say it's pretty effective, especially, well, if there's more constituents, then it shows obviously that it's a priority for voters. And we have to type up a response, so it kind of goes on the office's agenda.
Yeah.
Because, you have to come up with a response to that position. And it just shows what people care about, and I think it makes an impact. So it does, especially in smaller offices like congressional offices versus Senate offices. Yeah, and like I had people calling about really small things like, oh, the BLM land behind my house, people are hunting on it, but they're not allowed to hunt on it. And of course, that's federal land. So, like we were able to kind of call the local sheriffs and like help with that. So, yeah, if you ever need help with a federal agency, congressional offices are a great place to go. Yeah.
Should we start getting ready for our presentation?
All right, we're gonna take this computer into the other room and get ready for the next presentation.
So nice to connect with you all.
Thank you for the questions.
So hi everybody. Thank you so much for everyone who can make it here today, whether it be virtually or in person here with us. Our workshop is going to outline what advocacy means to us, what it concretely is, and how to stay safe while engaging in different forms of advocacy. After our presentation, we'll have time for questions and an opportunity to participate in a zine making activity. It'll be really fun. So hi, I'm Celine. I am a senior at Sunset High School in Portland, Oregon, and I am the president of the League of Women Voters of Oregon Youth Council. I'm also a 3-year member with the Planned Parenthood Columbia Willamette Teen Council and serve on their education board as a youth representative. I've worked with a lot of different organizations, including Civics Unplugged, Riley's Way. That's just some of the work I do.
Hi everyone, my name is Chris. I use he, him pronouns. I'm the vice president of the League of Women Voters of Oregon Youth Council. I'm a junior at the University of Oregon. I studied planning, public policy, and management. I have a business minor. I'm also a Wayne Moore Scholar at the University of Oregon, a legislative scholar, and I have some previous experience doing congressional internships. And I'm so happy to be here.
Hey everyone, I'm Jeannie. I am the DIJ co-chair and events coordinator for the League of Women Voters. I go to Lewis and Clark College and I'm a double major in psychology and biology, hoping to pursue drug prevention and harm reduction nonprofits down in the future.
Hi everyone, my name is Nicole Rex Pearl. I am a freshman at AJC Nelson High School and I have just become a member of the League of Women Voters at Oregon. I'm just, I'm just a student who has a really big passion in equity. And I really want to pursue a career in something related to social justice when I'm older. So youth council has just been a great opportunity for me.
So we wanted to start our discussion off with we wanted to start our presentation off with a group discussion. Since we have a different setup and since we had a little technical issues, if you guys either virtually want to put in the chat what these next 3 questions mean to you, and in person if you'd like to share out loud via raising your hand or within like small groups, either way, and then we'll take a couple minutes to just think about these questions and then talk about it as a whole. So
first off, what does advocacy mean to you? What are you passionate about? And that could include hobbies or just what you like to do in your free time, creatively what you like to do, and then how could those work together? How can your advocacy connect to what you're passionate about? Should we discuss among ourselves? So feel free to just talk amongst yourselves and then we'll kind of share out.
One thing I'm really passionate about is reproductive rights. So I found advocacy opportunities.
for those online, me as in Deanie, Celine, Chris, Chris and Nicole are talking about it in person, so I thought we would unmute to so y'all can listen to our discussion, and please continue to feel free answering these questions in the chat.
So for me, advocacy means speaking up on issues that you care about and I think it has to be motivated by like love for people, or else it's not really advocacy. Or it would be advocacy, but it would just not be helpful. And then what am I passionate about? I like the arts, like fashion, music, and I think these can be really powerful forms of protest. Yeah, I think that kind of influences the dialogue and it influences how people think about issues, or it can make a difference in the long run.
I think for me, advocacy is just and kind of really passionate about, like I mentioned, social justice. Like injustices in general have just been like really in my heart. I like as a minority, like that's just a word being part of my heritage. And it's something that I grew up with minorities I want to bring awareness about. And those two work together and like also being able to advocate for like other voices to be that representation has just been so that's so cool. Should we bring it back? Yeah. We're gonna bring it back. We're loving all the discussions. Loving the enthusiasm.
For those in person, would you care to share what these questions mean to you? It's okay, Matt. Yeah, Caleb.
We kind of brought up that advocacy means like having a voice in something that you.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Anyone else? Wait, I want to hear more. Evan, what? I'm picking someone.
Yeah, I was talking to Caleb and I was talking about when I was in middle school, a lot of my friends were girls and they seemed to be getting dress coded at a lot higher rate than the boys were. So a way that I advocated for my friends is by going to the school board. I put together a slide talking about personal stories of my friends, kind of explaining why that was problematic and ways that I thought it should be changed. And the school board ended up talking to me about that and speaking to some girls, and the dress code was changed through advocacy. So certain things like that, talking to people who have more power than you may, hearing your personal stories can be highly effective.
That's awesome.
Is there anyone on our virtual side who would like to unmute and share what advocacy means?
We can also. So yeah, for me personally, advocacy means speaking up about people you care about, issues you care about. And I think it can be something really small, like just talking to your friend and having a conversation, or it can be bigger, like Deanie did in high school, like organizing protests, organizing walkouts about just to prevent certain issues and to try to make a difference. And I think it did make a difference. Yeah. Ronan.
For me, advocacy means is, I guess, just standing up for something. So one thing I was passionate about was just environmental like rights, and different freedoms that are getting restricted. And for me, the best way to advance that, the best way to advance that was working and campaigning for people that I thought would protect those freedoms. And also holding into account people who didn't protect them, right? And making sure that people know that, people know who is and who isn't protecting their freedom. So, right. So I think it would mean a different thing for each person. Like I could have took a policy angle and went to legislators and talked to them. But instead for me, I found a better approach, in my opinion, and what I wanted to do was actually working to elect people that I thought would protect those freedoms.
Yeah.
I saw someone online raise their hand. I think it was Peggy, if you would still like to share.
Sure. I think that advocacy means a lot of things. I mean, it's from actually showing up to legislative bodies to testify about an issue that matters to you, to using your $25 donation to the right source, to buying products that support the causes that you support and not buying those that don't. Advocacy can mean a lot. I mean, I'm very passionate about organic farming, for instance. And so the bottom line of that is I farm organically. I think that advocacy is a daily activity. That's what I was saying.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
I believe that advocacy, in the way I perceive it, is creating spaces for other people to have the opportunity to speak. So say I go into a school, I'm creating a space for students to come and talk to me so I can advocate for them and to use their words to help them. And I feel like that is something that is very important about advocacy, is creating spaces using my privilege as an adult to create these spaces for kids.
I love that.
It's super powerful.
It's just showing that they matter and amplifying them.
Well, thank you for everyone who showed in person, online, through chat, everything.
And like we did, you guys had some amazing discussions. Not each answer was the same. Advocacy can mean many different things and can mean differently to each person. Google defines advocacy as activities and publications to influence public policy, laws, and budgets by using facts, their relationships, the media, and messaging to educate government officials and public. And like I said, the definition of advocacy varies towards every person. And I would like to shine light on our youth councils to define what advocacy means to each one of us.
So for me, advocacy is all the actions, no matter the size, no matter big or small, that lead to the big meaningful changes within our systems.
That's great. For me, advocacy is speaking up for the issues and people you care about in little just like talking to a friend, or big ways like advocating to the Senate or leading a march. And for me, it's also doing actions like volunteering or, you know, redistributing resources and all the actions, while advocacy can just be kind of seeking to change ideas. Actions to me are also advocacy.
I think for me, advocacy means using your voice, ability and privilege to just speak up for those who don't have a voice, who are marginalized, who are oppressed through systems, through a lot of different things.
And like my peers just said, to reaffirm those values, I believe that advocacy is exercising your rights to impose change for yourself or others.
So why advocate? Well, that's a really good question. Policy and intersects with cultural issues, which affects those closest to us and people that we don't know, but they are people in our community. It's our responsibility to work towards the greater good collectively. Networking as advocacy is a great way to network and connect with individuals who have similar interests and passions as us. Explorations of interests and passions, which can be a way to figure out what you're most passionate about. Moving the needle, because advocacy ripples out, sometimes slowly. Advocacy can help move the needle and gain support and traction for the cause that you care most about. And finally, it makes people care. It shows leaders in the communities that people care about a specific issue and can create change through that.
So advocacy is powerful, and we can look at a number of protests that have shown this. For example, in Portland, when healthcare workers went on strike, they were able to gain a living wage. And if we look at the Black Lives Matter protest, it was the largest protest ever. And then suffrage, the suffragette movement, women fought for the right to vote, and they were successful. And now that's the right that we all enjoy. So that's all due to advocacy.
So it can be difficult to start the search for advocacy opportunities. Maybe you don't know what specific issues you want to focus on or advocate for, or maybe you don't know where to find these opportunities. These are all really valid concerns. Advocacy work should be something you feel connected to and feel passionate about. This work can happen on a local level, a national level, or an international level. And every piece of advocacy work is important to the cause that you are contributing to. Finding organizations to work with can be difficult, and you always have the choice to do independent work or advocacy work on your own. Later in this presentation, we'll give examples of both independent and community advocacy work. Working with or organizing with others can be an amazing opportunity as long as your interests align with the organization that you're working with and you're able to get involved as much or as little as you want. Remember that you always have the option to explore advocacy work on your own and find what you are truly passionate about independently. So finding your focus, figuring out what issues I want to focus on. This ended up being advocating for voter rights and eliminating barriers to voter registration, as well as reproductive justice. I learned about what my friends were doing and started going to social justice and advocacy spaces to connect with individuals who are similarly passionate about what I am. So that's how I found advocacy opportunities. But now I'm going to ask the youth council, how did you guys find advocacy opportunities?
So for me, it was all about getting involved and joining clubs and kind of that social sphere. So connecting with people, seeing what they care about has influenced what I care about. Taking classes has expanded my horizons. For example, I took a public health course, and then I cared more about these aspects that I didn't even know impacted the way we live, the way we're healthy. As well, my family has kind of influenced my political views and made me care about issues. For example, my dad has done a lot to advocate for the homeless community. So that's kind of really impacted me a lot, just seeing how he cares about marginalized people. As well as social media has kind of made me more passionate about issues and brought new issues to my attention that I didn't know about. As well, my personal experiences, like, going to college from a small town and seeing all these big cultural differences in college towns, but also seeing how inaccessible college was, how expensive it was, has made me want to advocate to make college more affordable for people.
For me, I started advocacy in middle school. I did it through joining clubs and just connecting with teachers that I found were really supportive of the passions that I was interested in, especially as an individual who comes from a couple different marginalized communities that intersect with one another. It was really easy, especially like Chris said, coming from our small town, it was easy to feel different and want to make space for myself. So that's how I kind of found my advocacy work.
And despite a lot of like the misconceptions with social media and the internet, I actually started my advocacy journey by just searching up one of my passions. And honestly, it took one Google search to just find a display of different organizations that had the same intentions and shared the same values as I did. And so, and I was able to involve myself like with many organizations like League of Women Youth Voters. And that's just something that helped me along that. But furthermore, like the other youth council members said, school was a really easy resource to use, joining clubs, being a part of my school district's youth equity committee, being able to communicate with district board members was also a really big opportunity for me.
It's awesome.
Oops.
Sorry.
That's okay. So like Celine mentioned earlier, finding your focus is a really good way of finding like what you want to do within advocacy. It can be helpful in finding long-term opportunities, and there's always ways to advocate and help your community in amazing ways, no matter what previous experience or situation you were in. So another, like we've mentioned before, another way to find advocacy opportunities is through clubs and school. I think a lot of teachers and advisors, clubs, and schools are very connected to like advocacy opportunity. You just have to figure out how to ask around. And attending school board meetings, club meetings, or just anything along the lines of that can also be super, super helpful.
So I'm going to talk a little bit about some ways to engage with decision makers as well as the benefits of that. So engaging with decision makers can help you build connections. You can connect with local, regional, and national policymakers and movement leaders, leaders in the nonprofit sector, and just advocates in general. And these connections will help you make real change. You can connect with the city or county government, state officials, or national representatives. Another important way to engage with decision makers is writing letters, because this can make a real impact. Legislators count the letters they get, and that influences the policies that they create. Writing letters gives you an opportunity to address public leaders and a platform to educate other members of the public. For example, with the letter to the editor, I've written letters to the editor, and it's really fun because suddenly half the town has to like read what you have to say. So it's a really cool opportunity to just push your views on the public. It's awesome. Yeah, and then using varied platforms. You can use social media, in-person events, email or snail mail, and more to connect with policymakers. Another great way to connect with decision makers is attending public meetings, like going to a town hall. I've done this, and being able to ask a question. You can really make a lot of connections this way, because you'll ask a question and then people will come and talk to you afterwards. They'll invite you to, for example, join the League of Women Voters of Oregon Youth Council. That's how I got involved. I've gotten internships from talking at town halls and asking questions. So it's just a great way to make a connection and make a difference.
And then following Chris's slide, when engaging with people in authority or people in power, it is imperative to know how to do it efficiently. And this slide will cover not only ways to do it, but things that you should keep in mind to ensure precision.
So first, you should create a script. It's going to make it a lot easier to say what you want to say, because it can be really intimidating being on the phone with someone in a congressional office. And this should include your basic information like your name, your address, city, or zip code. And this is important because it shows that you're a constituent. And if you don't show that information, representatives aren't going to know why they should necessarily listen if you're not a voter for them. And then state the issue and your stance that you want to address clearly and effectively.
And then, the more the merrier. You should invite others to participate in whatever action you're trying to pursue. I know that personally what I've done is I'll post copies of letters that I've sent to different representatives on my Instagram story, just to kind of promote that kind of thing. And again, share your script to make it to make it seem, to promote the idea, or and ensure that others know how to pursue that action.
So while calling is great, you don't necessarily have to call. You can also email. It's going to be a little less intimidating, and it's really going to get the message across pretty much just as effectively. But if you do want to call, if you feel up to it, but you also feel a little like you don't want to speak to someone on the phone, you can call after hours, and then it'll get the message across, and you can just leave a voicemail with your script. So that's another great option.
And then, as someone who has a big heart as well, it is super easy to get carried away with your messages, your calls or emails. But then remember that there's always someone on the other end who wants to hear what you have to say. So you want to ensure that you are being polite, that even if the topic is emotional, that your the way you come forward with your point is polite, but still direct.
And ask for a response, because if you don't know how much they're really going to take into account your issue if they don't have that responsibility of sending a response. So ask a specific question, and I think that's going to make a big difference in pushing for change.
And then when contacting your representatives, there are some safety concerns that we should all be aware of. When contacting representatives, your information can easily become public. If you call, email, or write to representatives, that information becomes public record and is often able to be accessed in public record requests. It is important to be aware of this when sharing your name, location, and contact information. Sharing your zip code or city is often sufficient to establish that you are a constituent. And if you share your email or phone number, ensure that you have a designated email or phone number. Things like Google Voice, making up an email designated for responses can easily be helpful to prevent public information being leaked.
Awesome. So tabling is an incredibly effective way to advocate for a cause or to spread information on a specific issue. So this summer, I got the opportunity to help run a voter registration table at the Portland Night Market with the League of Women Voters of Oregon, which gave out information about the upcoming Portland election and offered quick and accessible voting registration. It was incredibly impactful to see the barriers that our community faces up close and see how difficult it is to actually register to vote for some communities. It's really important to set a goal and identify your audience. To advocate this way, it's important to think through what specifically you want your table to achieve and what information concretely you want to spread. You can choose how you want the community to interact with your table, whether it be signing up for some more information, calling for action for a future event, or simply having conversations to spread awareness. The more we talk about it, the more everybody in our community knows about it. Identifying partners and considering whether there are organizations in your area with similar goals or an audience. Pooling resources can really lead to a greater impact. Ensuring permission. Additionally, you have to make sure to get all the right permissions to make sure you don't have any issues accessing your audience. And the great thing about tabling is you can get a lot of community advocacy and excitement going. Face-to-face advocacy is incredibly effective, and you are able to explain your issue verbally rather than relying on a third-party source.
So now I'm going to go over some ways to stay safe while tabling, because you are out there in the public, you are out there. So it's just best to stay safe. So number one, know the venue. Ensure that you're aware of emergency exits and the general venue layout. Permits. In case someone questions your presence, make sure that any necessary permits to table are easily available to display. You might need permission to table in a public space like a market or park. So make sure everyone knows where that documentation is located in case someone asks what you're doing there. Next, work in pairs. Schedule volunteers to work in pairs or more and allow for overlap for breaks. Just having 2 advocates is better than 1, and it makes it a lot more enjoyable to table and also easier. Next, know the plan. Ensure all volunteers know the plan and how to respond in case of emergency. Include prohibited activities or actions and provide contact numbers for the lead organizers in case there are questions.
So protesting can also be a really good way to advocate. No matter what image we have in our head about protesting, it still remains a relevant and effective form of advocacy that is used around the world. We see examples of protesting every day on the news, on social media. So what do we define protesting as? A protest is a public expression of disapproval, dissent, or objection towards an action or an idea. It can be defined by instances of civil, typically nonviolent resistance that is part of a larger systemic and peaceful campaign aimed at achieving a specific objective by the use of pressure or persuasion. Protesting can be incorporated in our everyday lives. I know someone mentioned earlier how we can do it every single day through boycott, signing a petition, tabling, or even through social media by sharing posts, reposting other stuff, talking to our friends in everyday conversation. And other ways of protesting also come in forms of marches and rallies.
So hosting a march or a rally, there's a few things to keep in mind. Numbers do matter. Although all protests are equally important no matter the amount of people, but inviting your friends and members of like-minded organizations can just make it a stronger protest. And make the event memorable. Plan for a variety of speakers, people with signs, chants, songs, and other activities to make the event memorable, fun, and effective.
And then publicize strategically. Call the local news outlets, like if you're at a university or a high school, call the school paper to cover the event. Include the who, what, where, when, and why. This is going to make your outreach so much larger because people who aren't there, or people who don't see the protest are still going to be affected by it. They're still going to read about it, and it's going to help push for change. And then highlight that the event is meant to be a peaceful demonstration. People can definitely disapprove of protests that aren't peaceful, so it can be a lot more impactful if it's peaceful. So next, it's important to create a safety security team and plan. Protests can definitely get heated, so set up a team to specifically watch for potential escalation, unsafe situations, like designated adults if it's a youth protest. Brief speakers and facilitators on how to react if they are interrupted by counter protesters. Ensure that attendees know who to look for on the security team to report unsafe or uncomfortable situations.
And then the next couple of slides are just going to be talking about what to bring when, like some necessities that you should bring when you're protesting, how to deal with counter protesters, and how to de-escalate these some situations. Oh yes. Okay, so when bring protesting, these are just some non-negotiables that we think that you should bring. First of all, just a small backpack to make carrying your essentials easily. Second, bringing water, snacks, or your personal medications to ensure that you have enough energy to last you throughout the day, because most of these things in terms of protesting, you're going to be walking and it's going to be typically it's a lot of people, it's going to be crowded, you're going to be drained, and you just want to have enough energy to last you throughout the day. And then sure, if you're bringing any necessary prescriptions, keep them in the specific bottle that they came in. Third, mask, sanitizer, and a first aid kit. COVID-19 is still a very real thing. I personally had it like a few days ago. It's still crazy out there. You want to prioritize the safety of yourself and others. So just bring some hand sanitizer, mask up, and a first aid kit in case of some small injuries that happen along the way. And of course, clothing and shoes to blend in with the crowd. You want to wear typically darker clothing and always wear good walking shoes because you're going to be walking long distances. I don't think you want to come in a pair of heels. That's just me. And then lastly, I think a power bank or just a list of emergency numbers, a power bank to keep your phone charged so you know if you can use it to contact anyone, and then emergency numbers to contact people. And then in the case of a protesting going wrong, anything, first of all, stay vigilant. While you might have every intention to demonstrate peacefully, any protest has the potential to be unsafe. Whether it's the case of counter protesters or whatever, there's always a chance that it could go wrong. Second, if you were the one who organized a march or rally, have a place to address if someone gets ill or hurt. Third, if you're attending an event, know the closest safety location exits. We talked about how you should know the area pretty well. Just know where the safety locations or exits are. And then let people know, when I talked about keeping a list of emergency numbers, let people know ahead of time that you're going to events. Let them know, the person should know your location, anticipated return time, and to check on behalf if you're injured or arrested.
So when going to protests, there usually are counter protesters. That's just the nature of what protests and rallies and marches are. So the first thing you should do is don't engage. Counter protesters typically thrive on attention, and the best way to react is to simply not engage and don't give any attention to them. Like Nicole said, staying alert and vigilant, remembering to say, even if you're at a rally, that's meant to be peaceful. You can't always control the actions of others since they're usually outside in public spaces. It's important to be aware of your surrounding and try to spot potentially dangerous situations before they happen, and working together, making sure that you're not leaving anyone on their own and you're staying as a team. Crowd size definitely matters. Having more peaceful advocates who outnumber counter protesters can be a wonderful thing when it comes to advocacy. It's also important to know your location relative to your group size. If there are too many people in a small location, maybe moving to a different venue, or just acknowledging that you might be in a space with a lot of people. And then remembering to remain peaceful even when it's difficult. It's always, sometimes it's a want to engage with these people, to yell at them back or things like that, but it's just best to not engage with them, and being there altogether peacefully is the best.
So now we want to talk about de-escalation, which can be challenging, but it's super important. So what is de-escalation? De-escalation is a method used to diffuse and prevent potential conflict or violence. So some signs of a situation escalating might include sudden change in body language or tone, change in type of eye contact, disruptive behavior like yelling, bullying, actively defying, or refusing to comply. But some de-escalation techniques include remaining calm, respecting personal space, speaking calmly, aware of your volume, rate of speech, and inflection, speaking compassionately, being aware of your body language, keeping a relaxed and alert stance off to the side of the person. Keep your hands down, open and visible, and avoid gesturing or pacing, maintaining a neutral and effective facial expression. If de-escalation isn't working, stop. If the situation feels unsafe, leave or call for help.
So, leveraging social media and other ways to share about your advocacy work. Our earlier workshop on misinformation, disinformation, and digital advocacy covered the ways that social media can be used to share information, invite collaboration, and share awareness for your cause. Other ways to share, aside from social media, there are a number of ways to engage the public. One of the awesome ways to share is through the use of zines. So a zine is a small circulation, self-published work, usually reproduced via a copy machine. Some historians claim that zines can be traced as far back as Thomas Paine's 1775 pamphlet, Common Sense. Zines serve as a significant medium of communication in the late 19th and early 20th century with its intersection of the Harlem Renaissance. Zine publication became a vital way to spread messages for underrepresented and marginalized folks, as well as niche subcultures tied together by common ideas and subjects. So we'll be making our own zine at the end of this, which is going to be really fun, but we'll talk more about that in a bit.
And then with leveraging social media, because social media is a great tool to advocate, there again, some online safety online safety precautions that you should be aware of. First of all, be aware of public information, your private information that is accessible to the public. One awesome way to do that is just Google yourself. Keep an eye out and audit your social media to ensure that your personal information, like your address, your job, family photos, are not available to those you don't wish to see. You can also set up Google alerts for your full name, phone number, home address, or other private data that you're concerned about. And then another one, don't feed into trolls. We already talked about not engaging in counter protesters. Online safety is a really big thing. Know when to engage and when to ignore comments online. Sometimes it's better not to give attention or traction to a person who is obviously trolling. And then if the situation is getting too intense, just leave the situation. It's important to prioritize your mental and physical health and mental and physical safety. You can mute, block, or remove folks that are negatively impacting you. And at last, consider the impact of your words. You know, when they say, always think before you speak, that is something critical online, because when it's online, when you post something online, it's already out. You just want to prioritize your health and safety, be considerate of the health and safety of others as well. Don't share identifying information while attending public events that could potentially endanger others. For example, when posting pictures of a protest, block out faces of folks that you don't have permission to post, and get permission to post or tag someone in a photo.
Here are some final thoughts in your own advocacy journeys. Stay informed and understand the root causes of the issues that you're passionate about or protest. This can help you become a better advocate. History often repeats itself, and learning from mistakes or leveraging successes can go far in your cause. Stay informed about current issues. This will help persuade people and prevent the spread of disinformation.
Be inclusive, empower, and amplify. Ensure that your advocacy is inclusive and representing diverse perspectives. Listen to others, especially those with lived experience, and recognize the intersectionality of issues. Empower folks to get involved by making participation equitable. There's different accessibility needs, different ways that we can engage with each other in our community. Share knowledge and resources with others to spread advocacy, and use your privileges to amplify the voices of those who experience marginalization and or oppression.
Next, develop resilience, be adaptable, and remember to celebrate. Advocacy can be challenging, and progress often takes time. Progress always takes time. Developing resilience and learning from setbacks helps to avoid burnout. Be adaptable and open to new ideas and strategies while holding onto your moral compass. Acknowledge and celebrate victories big and small. This boosts morale and keeps momentum going. Remember, just by speaking up, you are changing the dialogue. Thank you all. And we would love to take questions. Evan.
Yeah, so there was something mentioned on the slide, Fire Drill Fridays. What exactly are those?
Fire Drill Fridays are this really cool thing where there was like protests every Fridays. I think it was meant for a specific like protest, but they were mostly done in classrooms, which is what a lot of protests like came from. And so if anyone wants to do more research on them, they're really, really cool. We don't do them as much anymore as a form of protest, but they're really cool. And I think we didn't mention it as much, but walkouts are also a really cool way of walkouts and sit-ins are also very like important ways for people to advocate and protest as well. So
yeah.
As a student, do you think there's any way for people like middle schoolers or some people my age to get their voice out? Because personally, I feel like as younger kids, we just don't get like seen as much as people with power or with responsibility. So do you think there's any way that like as a younger student that we can especially get our voice out there?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say really quickly, I would say just speaking up. I think people really want to hear from younger people. I've noticed as I've grown up that people really care to hear from younger people because not a lot of younger people do speak up. So I think when you do, it's really impactful.
And I think to add on, I think that younger voices are so critical, hold such valuable impact. One thing that I definitely did as a middle schooler who felt like she didn't really have a voice, getting involved with your school district board was a really easy way, because you're talking about, especially in middle school, you don't have that much, I say, a lot of your time is spent in school. Like there's stuff like extracurriculars, but a lot of it is based in school. And I think getting involved with your school district board and communicating like your passions, communicating inequities within your school is just a really powerful and easy way to advocate to your school district board.
So should we go back and forth between online questions and in person? Jane, wait. Jean Pierce mentioned that we mentioned wearing dark clothing to blend in when a march, but also she mentioned that bright colors can really signify that you're unified and can catch attention. And I think that's a great point. Yeah, I think there's something really powerful about colors. For example, blue or red signify political parties. And I think, yeah, I think wearing all black would be more if you want to blend in, but if you want to stand out, that's something completely different.
To add on to that, if you were planning to go to a protest and wear like bright colors, make sure to do it in groups and make sure you're never on your own. We mentioned wearing dark colors just to protect our own safety and anonymity. And when you go and you wear bright colors, it definitely makes you stand out. So you want to ensure your safety over anything else to be with groups and things like that. So someone also mentioned that Jane Fonda does Fire Drill Fridays in DC to shed light on climate change. So it is still going on. I think more on the East Coast than it is on the West Coast, but yeah.
I love Jane Fonda.
Yeah.
Also, Greta Thunberg was kind of like the original Fire Drill Friday. And she's obviously had a huge impact in changing the dialogue.
Thank you guys so much.
No, you're all good.
No, we're gonna do this.
Yeah. Silent protests. So I'm unfamiliar with silent protests. Does that approach often include signage or other visuals? Yes. So I just went to a silent protest the other day, actually. They're normally in forms of sit-ins. So they normally include signage. They normally include a leader who does go around and like talk to people, and it's usually a group of people, probably like no more than 5, who are leading things and making sure that they're the ones interacting with like police if they come, counter protesters if they come, things like that. And so yeah, it does include signage. It sometimes includes like face paint and things like that, or like articles of clothing. So yeah.
Yeah, I think it makes a really powerful statement, silence.
Yeah, definitely. There's a thing called Day of Silence that was started by a national organization called GLSEN. And Day of Silence basically protested the bullying that LGBTQ individuals faced. And so those silent protests are annual things where like in school, students don't talk for a day. And so there are silent protests like that, where it's not just a sit-in, but it's like you're going on with your day-to-day life, just you're not talking at all. And so yeah.
With that, I think that almost every school in Oregon participates in that. So it's a great event. Really.
Yeah. Any other questions? Anything else? We do have zine making also, so we're about to move on to that.
Yay. Should we all take a seat?
Yeah.
All right.
So for those in person, y'all are gonna get supplies, and these 3 will help you if you need help making zines. For those who don't. And for those online, we have some links that we're going to share to do an online virtual zine making template. And then I'll be help facilitate that. So for the topic that we're making zines on, it's on what advocacy means to you, what protesting means to you, and how do they intertwine from the questions that we asked earlier. But also, you're welcome to do it on anything you want. Everyone, so this is our online zine making template. Please feel free to claim. Sorry, there's a lot of background noise. They're all making zines in the other room, but please feel free to claim a template. The questions that if you'd like to have a prompt, but also you're welcome to do it on whatever you want. The prompt that we're answering is just what advocacy means to you. It's the 3 questions that we asked in the beginning. What advocacy means, what protesting means, what's your passion, and how do they intertwine with one another. So Chloe's here with me, and Chloe will be answering questions if you need help with Canva or if you're not really sure what to do. So I hope you have fun doing this zine making.
Right. Hi everyone. My name is Chloe. I'm pretty familiar with Canva. I own my own PR and marketing firm. So if anyone has any questions that I can help with, just let me know.
Hello and welcome back, everybody. We hope you enjoyed your break.
I am going to be introducing our next speaker, Chloe, who is going to be sharing our Leap into the Legislature presentation.
Okay, I think people can hear me. Yes, okay, cool. Hi guys, my name is Chloe. I use she, her pronouns. I'm the Legislative Communications Director with the League of Women Voters of Oregon. I'm a political science and communications major at Southern Oregon University, and I work with the Oregon School-Based Health Alliance, Next Up and Next Up Action Fund, Jackson Youth Systems of Care, and Unite Oregon. I've got experience doing Oregon legislature testimony, lobbying Oregon legislators, crafting elevator pitches, and being an advocacy skill mentor. How to find your legislators. Who are your legislators? I have a QR code that you can pull out your phone and look, and just shoot it at the screen. And then for online folks, you can use the link maybe, or copy and paste it into your browser. I'm going to leave it up for a second and then I'll put it back. We'll move on. Okay, so enter your home or school address, whatever you feel comfortable with, and then this will pull up your House and Senate district. So there's going to be two different results. It'll be your senator and your House representative, and then it'll also have your congressional representative. It's important to note that U.S. senators for Oregon are Senator Jeff Merkley and Senator Ron Wyden. So their names won't appear on the map, but they do also serve Oregonians, and you'll be able to see in this example for this specific address, it's Senator Taylor and Representative Nose. Testimony 101. What is testimony and how do we give it? There's 3 different types of testimony. You can do written, which is submitting either a written PDF, or you can type testimony directly into OLIS. In person, you can register to submit in person and speak in front of the committee in which the bill is currently in, or you can do it live via Zoom. Similar instructions to in person, just you're going to be live on Zoom instead of being physically in person. Testimony is public information. So all testimony, including your name and any personal information contained in the submitted documents, are posted to the Oregon Legislature Information System, which is OLIS. They're accessible to all major search engines, including Google, Bing, and Yahoo. Ronan and I were actually just having a conversation at lunch when I've been reviewing testimony lately. Some people give their full address or their phone number. Please don't do that because it is public information and anyone can be able to find it. There's time limits. So written testimony in Oregon cannot exceed 4,000 characters. You can submit testimony on OLIS 48 hours before the public hearing. It's important to note that written testimony is only accepted on public hearings. In-person testimony, typically you get 2 minutes. It depends on the committee chairs. They'll give you more information about that specifically for whatever bill you're testifying for. And then the registration closes for that 30 minutes before the hearing. So just make sure you're all registered to testify. When addressing legislatures giving testimony, make sure to do your research. So what committee is your bill in, and then who are the members of the committee? Address the chair members first, and then address the committee members as a whole. So an example would be chair blank, vice chair blank, And members of the committee, my name is, that's proper when addressing legislators and kind of a norm in the testimony world. So how do you submit written testimony on OLIS? So you'll be able to log in to the site and search bills. Oh, I don't have my pointer. I'm supposed to have a pointer. Bills, and you can find the number that it is, and then you'll be able to then look at the public hearing when it's scheduled, and then it'll have that register to testify, which is that red thing, and you just click it. And then once clicking the link, just verify it's the right committee, the right meeting time, double check one more time it's the right bill you're wanting to submit for, and then enter the information, first and last name. Your email does need to be used. However, that's not public information, so that'll be kept safe. And then your organization or city of residence, very important, just your city, not your full address. And then if you're testifying on behalf of someone, you'll be able to put that, or an organization, and then what's your position on this bill? You can either support, oppose, or neutral. And then you'll be able to click if you're submitting a PDF, or you can do the text testimony directly into OLIS, and then this gets published as soon as you're done. It gets uploaded right away. How to register for verbal testimony. So same thing, you'll go into the bill, go into the hearing, and then you'll be able to click submit public testimony. And this is also where you can find what committee it's in and who the chair members are. So when you're writing your speech, it's important to know who's on the committee. And then same thing, make sure you're on the right date, the right meeting time, your name, your information. This one does require your phone number, but again, it won't be public. And then locations, when you testify, you can either click on that in person or via Zoom, and then they'll get you a link. How you wish to be addressed, whatever organization you're with, your title, and that'll be how you get registered to testify. Elevator pitches. So we've talked a lot about testifying in general, but what are we actually saying to these people? So an elevator pitch is formal or informal. It's a clear, brief message with intent. It's structured and it's focused, intriguing a listener to obtain their interest, winning the speaker the chance to offer a longer, more detailed presentation at a later time. So how long is it? Typically 30 seconds to 3 minutes, just depending on how much time you have available. The reason it's called an elevator pitch is the time is supposed to be the time it takes to ride up an elevator, up and down several floors. And then the length will also depend on who your audience is. And then where are they delivered? Elevator, airport, taxi, video clip via social media, testifying, pretty much anywhere you can give an elevator pitch. So here are 5 quick tips for your elevator pitch. So keep it short. The length, again, depends on your audience. 30 seconds to 3 minutes is where it should be at. Make sure to establish credibility. So your name in school, and then constituency and any organizations you're with. And then make sure to customize the details, do your research and connect with your audience. That'll be a good chance to establish constituency. Or if the legislators have similar interests as you, that'll be important to add. Use layman's terms, keep it simple, don't do any acronyms, avoiding industry slang, and then sound natural. So practice it to sound natural and rehearse and rehearse and rehearse and rehearse all the time. So this is the elevator pitch structure guide. So first you have your message. So what do you need your audience to know? Hi, Representative Senator, my name is, and I attend blank. I live in District blank. Story and key data will be next. Connect the message specifically to your work with quick data or a personal story. So telling a personal story, connecting to your topic. Keep in mind, testifying is public record. So if it's a personal story you're not comfortable with being shared publicly, maybe pick a different one. And make sure you use data from reliable sources. We just talked about mis and disinformation. Make sure that they're credible before using it. And then for your ask, consider who you are talking to and what they care about and what it is within their power to impact, and make a specific request. So I support or oppose blank through blank. And that's the elevator pitch structure. Make it short, memorable, and personal. Next is an activity.
Post that right here.
Oh, fabulous. This wasn't in the script. Okay. Oh, a microphone, even better.
So I will be using, can you go back slide? I'll be using
Yes,
all
I'll try.
structure. So I will be starting.
Oops, nope, hold on. I got it.
Okay.
I got it. There we go. Back.
So I'll be starting with, hello, Senator Costa. I attend Atacama High School, and today I'm here with you with the LWV. So then I will tell a story or using store key data. So I want to talk to you about SB 1000, a bill which advocate and provide a teacher with 65% raise from the minimum wage, which is making a living wage. With current strike data from PAT, from the PBS school system, it is crucial that we must provide teachers and facilities of educational purposes with a good amount of funding so they could provide and nurture the next generation. So then I ask. So, Senator, even though the bill is bipartisan at the moment, but the floor is always unexpected. So I ask you to advocate and talk to your peers, talk to other senators to vote this bill through. SB 1000. SB 1000. And then always keep it short. And at the end, I recommend you to reiterate the number and the bill. So SB 1000, Senator Acosta, SB 1000. Thank you.
Well, that was fabulous. I don't have a comeback to that. I do support that bill, though. Teachers deserve to be paid. My mom's a teacher. I'm a teacher. We know. Now back into the activity, though. I have made up a fake bill. So it's Senate Bill 3824. It's completely fictional. It does not exist. It's for one organization to receive $10,000 in additional funding. Your job is to advocate for the organization of choice to receive the funds by writing an elevator pitch. How much? 15 minutes? Is that how much we're gonna have? Okay, so we'll have 15 minutes to brainstorm and write a short elevator pitch on note cards. There's half sheets of paper for in-person folks. Talk with the people around you. We'll be sharing as a group when we come back. So that's good. Where is it? Senate Bill 3824 is in the grant committee, and the chair is Senator Smith, and the vice chair is Senator Jackson. Again, this is completely fictional. It does not exist. Elizabeth is going to put the online folks into breakout rooms, and you guys will have testimony leads in the room to help with any questions that may arise. I'll go back to the structure slide just so you all can see it, and then we will come back in 15 minutes.
Everyone able to hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Great. Yeah, this is Evan Tucker speaking now. So we're going to be going over some elevator pitches. In this mock scenario, there is Senate Bill 3824, and it gives $10,000 to an organization that you are affiliated with. So yeah, we're just going to go through some mock ones, starting with who you are, your brief message, story, key data, and then why you support that bill. If anyone wants to start. Do you have any examples that you could use in this situation of an elevator pitch?
Hi, Evan. I don't know. I was trying to think, I can't think of what would be the specifics of the group and what the money's for. So I was trying to think of how I would approach this if I'm just making it up. Is that what we're doing?
Yeah, so let's just say, for example, it's for the League of Women Voters to keep it easy. How would you try and show your support for this bill?
Well, it's definitely connected to my work. I think probably it would have to be, I would start if we were looking at story and key data that probably just the reason why we need the money and what we would be doing with it.
I have an example that I wrote out. Good morning, Senator Smith. I'd like you to support SB 3824, giving the League of Women Voters of Oregon $10,000. The mission of the organization is to defend democracy. I'm very concerned about the future of democracy. I think the future is at stake because of voter suppression. Please support SB 3824.
Yeah, that's a great example. Thank you so much. Now let's try and flip it. Let's say that they're wanting to decrease the funding for the League of Women Voters of Oregon. How would you change your pitch?
Say, please don't, because I'm terrified that we'll lose our democracy.
Does anyone else have any other examples? Maybe for any other organizations that they're involved with?
Evan, I've had to do this in development. And sometimes it's for the youth council and sometimes it's for our other operational costs and things like that. But I would just start out by saying, I'll just forego the introduction, but I would just say that I'm advocating. Let's say we're not taking money away, but we're going to try to keep the money. I'm advocating in support of Bill 3824 because the much needed grant of $10,000 will make a huge difference in our organization, the League of Women Voters of Oregon, that promotes voter education and civic engagement. The $10,000 grant would allow us to buy airtime publicity for our award-winning digital voters guide, accessible online at vote411.org. Am I going too long already? Am I?
No, I think that's great.
Keep going. Okay. Then I would just wind up by saying we would be very grateful, and we are trying to defend democracy and empower voters, and this would be a big step to help us do that and get the publicity around the state for our accessible voters guide. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that, Freddie. I recently did something pretty similar to this. I had the opportunity to lobby for more higher education funding last month, and that was a big opportunity for me to discuss issues that I'm very passionate about, like having more funding for mental health services at the University of Oregon, because there's been times when I might have needed it, and it's the same for other students, but there's not enough funding for mental health services. So I went through, talked about why that's important to me, how that bill would affect my life, and benefit other Oregonians.
Great. It's all helpful.
I think asking for money is harder than probably anything. It seems like it's easier to advocate for a cause than it is to ask for money. So I don't know. This was kind of hard for me to think through.
And sometimes like it can be difficult because there's only X amount of money allowed in the budget. And if you're going to give more money to one thing, money is going to be taken out of another portion of the budget. And it's trying to balance where these priorities lie. Because you may be pro more public education funding and maybe more funding for health. But if you're going to increase one, funding might have to come out of another thing.
I guess the exception to that is I came from Illinois, and the legislature there agreed to increase the funding for education in Illinois by at least 350 million each year for at least 10 years in order to make funding more equitable.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for doing that. That's incredibly impressive.
So it did not take from anything else. It was an addition.
Hi, does anyone want to share the elevator pitches that they did? It can either be from the online or it can be in-person people. Would you like to? Yeah, go ahead.
Well, my name is Caleb Duncan, and I'm a business that takes care of people over the age of 18 with mental and intellectual disabilities. These people didn't have stable homes growing up, so we're asking to request Senate Bill 382-4. Our business will use this money to take our clients to places throughout the state. We hope that the memories that they get throughout going to these places will help make up from the memories that they lost as a kid and improve their mental health.
Good job. Thank you for sharing. I really liked that. Does anyone else want to go? Are you sure you don't want to? Oh, Chris, you want to go? Yes.
Chair Smith.
I'm sorry, that scared me. Go ahead.
Chair Smith definitely hurt me.
Yep.
Chair Senate, Vice Chair Jackson, members of the grant. My name is Chris Walker, and my father has always been a home builder. But the houses he's built have sold at market price, which is completely unaffordable for so many. I live in downtown Eugene, where my neighbors are houseless. They too deserve a home. In 2020, my dad constructed a homeless shelter in Grants Pass to put people in shelter, but construction costs are high. So far, 12 people can sleep at night with a roof over their head, when previously they roamed the streets alone at night for fear of sleeping in an unsafe place. But the homelessness crisis is encompasses much more than just 12 people. It's far from fixed. Please share your grant money so we can build a second shelter for another 12 people. Lives depend on it. Support the construction of new units today and share the 10,000 with our new homeless shelter.
Awesome. Oh, Ronan, do you want to? I can take half finished ones. Okay.
Hi, Seminary Son. My name is Ronan Auer, and I attend the International School Beaverton, live in District 24. I work for, this is as far as I got.
Okay.
I work for an organization that works to increase voter registration in marginalized communities. I've seen firsthand how people use their vote, they improve their communities. If you give us the $10,000 to register voters, we will go to the places left behind, those left behind, suffering from job loss, and we will register 2,000 voters.
Fabulous. Does anyone else want to go either in the room or Zoom? People, you can just come off of mute.
I have one. I don't know if you can hear me.
Okay. Nope.
Okay, good morning,
Hand it to
Senator
her.
Smith. I'm Jean Pierce and I live in Beaverton. I'd like you to support Senate Bill 3824, giving the League of Women Voters of Oregon $10,000. The mission of the organization is to defend democracy. I'm very concerned that the future of democracy is at stake because I see voter suppression happening all over the country. Please support Senate Bill 3824.
Thank you for sharing. Everyone wins. You all get the money. Congratulations. Let me. So, how do we continue advocating? Write to your legislators. It's a great way to use your voice about issues you care about. You can write an elevator pitch and you can just send an email to their office. Keep having conversations. Continue to talk with friends, family, local and state government officials, and community members about things you're passionate about. And then you can also join the League of Women Voters of Oregon Youth Council. We learn skills in community organizing, nonprofit advocacy, and more. Thanks to our sponsors who made this event possible. Thank you for listening to me. Okay, so my email is on here. You can scan the QR code and that goes to the League of Women Voters of Oregon Youth Council website, and we also have an Instagram page. That's all I got. Do you wanna? It's okay. Sure. Okay. Oh, I love the Wi-Fi. I don't want to leave my eyes.
All right. Hi again, everyone. I am looking here to see if I'm seeing any questions. Let me stop sharing this really quickly. There we go. Any questions? We are going to move into our sort of facilitated Q&A. So if you have questions that you want to ask our youth council members about anything that you've seen today or heard today, or if there are just any sort of general questions that you might have, this is your time and opportunity to do so. So for those of you online or in person, if you have questions, the floor is open. Okay, well, I have some questions while folks kind of think on things. So we talked quite a bit about in the second workshop about finding ways to get involved. And something that I am curious about is if you have if youth are struggling to find sort of those like-minded people or ways to get involved in their community, what sort of like advice can you offer them? And this is for any of the youth council. I don't know where the microphone ended up.
So what I would say is that what I've learned is that the opportunities aren't going to come to you. You have to be searching for them. That's how it works, unfortunately. But what I will tell you is that people want to hear your voice. And I mean that, like, people really want to hear what you have to say. So if you reach out, you'll probably get a response, and legislators really do want to hear it. And so if you, especially like, I mean, again, the young people really want to hear your voice. And I've learned, like, I'm on the campaign side, if you reach out to a campaign and you're offering help for their campaign, most campaigns aren't going to say no. So I guess I would say just be on the lookout. And also, the other thing I find very effective is build a group of young people and of like-minded young people who also are in the field. And they will know probably opportunities. That's how I found a lot of what I do. I found opportunities I never would have known from just doing that, and also just being active and like talking to people, right? That's building those connections is so huge. And that's how a lot of people this field are hired, is because of connections. If you have a connection to that person, and also once you build those connections with the legislators, maintaining those can be so important. And I know for me, for example, I have maintained a connection with a state representative who lives on my street. We talk about a lot, and Lisa Reynolds. And doing that has allowed me to basically give input anytime I want. So just build connections, reach out, and make your voice heard, because, you know.
Awesome. And then it looks like Celine, you wanted to.
Something I would love to add to that. Is I definitely agree the best way to learn new things and to find out what you're really passionate about is by talking to people. The more you talk to people, the more you can find out, the more you can learn. People often have so many things.
Does anyone else want to share? We have a question that came in through the chat here that I'd like to share. Obviously, all of us are very passionate about what we do, and it can get to the point of being over involved or stretching your capacity too far. So the question here is, any ideas on how to ease the burden of getting others involved and be effective? And also, how do you, sorry, I'm having trouble reading today, apparently. Okay, so how do you interact with folks who, you know, on those really emotional topics, and be able to effectively deliver a coherent message, you know, amplifying the voices of the folks that need to be amplified, while also getting that message across? Looks like Chris.
So when I interned, we got a lot of calls from people who felt very passionately about certain issues. And I think just listening and being compassionate and then asking questions is the best way to get to the heart of the issue. And you can tell like why someone feels so passionately about a certain issue by just asking them to like go a little deeper. And I think that's better than trying to make your own argument. I think it's better to ask them why they feel a certain way. Have they thought about something else?
Chris, I'm going to stop you for just a second. Apparently, they are having trouble hearing you. So I don't know if maybe you might want to come up here, sorry, and continue to share. We may just have to have folks pop up here. I don't know that the microphones are working.
So I think when I was interning and like taking phone calls from people who felt very passionately about certain issues, I found that the best way was to not try to make an argument back to them or anything. It was just to kind of listen compassionately and see where they were coming from and ask questions that kind of got deeper to the heart of the issue, like what they were struggling with, why they felt a certain way. I think that's the best way. Instead of trying to make your own argument on a certain issue, it can be just to ask questions, and that might help them change their mind. And then the first part of the question was?
The first part of the question was, sorry. Easing the burden of getting others involved so we're not burning out.
Yeah, that's huge. And it helps to having a team around you is really incredible. But also it can be just difficult to get people involved in general, because a lot of people just kind of stick to themselves and go about their daily lives without wanting to kind of get involved with other organizations. So I think sharing why it might be valuable to them, like whether it's something they can put on a resume, for a lot of young people it'd be that. But also I think what's big is establishing a friendship first, because then they're more likely to want to help you and want to be involved with your organization, and in that way ease the burden on you. So I think starting with friendship is the most important for that. So those are my 2 thoughts on those questions.
Anyone else have any thoughts on that they want to come up and share? We're getting our steps in coming up here today. Let me check the chat here. Okay, awesome. So no more questions in the chat that I'm seeing. One question that has been asked a lot particularly by members of the League of Women Voters of Oregon, is how can they engage and encourage youth civic participation in their community? Anyone with thoughts on that? Celine?
So that is a great question. And I would say, and I think Diana would too, find you meeting youth where they are. You can find youth in a lot of like youth social justice spaces happening in your community, or even just in general youth spaces. There will always be a few youth who are interested in social media, in social justice work, and social justice issues. So really just accessing youth spaces and finding youth interested through that.
So we also had some questions earlier about how, oh, I'm sorry. Yes, come on up. Sorry. I'm over here just moving along.
Okay, so I would just point out on engaging youth, part of that I would tell you, because I am currently not eligible to register to vote. Part of it, I think, what we have to do is, and this is the problem of, I think, part of why we have such low youth voter turnout, is that we don't care about youth voters until they're 18, which that's not how it should be. It should, I think talking to people who, even if, you know, because you actually pre-register in Oregon at 16, talking to like high schoolers that you know, even middle schoolers, right before they register to vote is important, and that's part of it. And making sure that they have what they need when they do register to vote is also part of it. And that's, I think, in my opinion, that's a huge part of what we do. And also, I think organizing more on college campuses, again, as Celine said, meeting youth where they are. States with the highest youth voter turnout often are the ones where youth are organized on college campuses. And the other thing I would say is there are organizations out there who are dedicated to registering young people to vote and getting them out to vote. And there's a number of organizations that do focus on that. And so assisting in that, and also amplifying the voice of youth activists, it also helps, right? Even if it's just reposting it to your network, amplifying any youth voice is increasing youth power. So that's what I would say.
Thank you. That was awesome and super valuable information. So what I'm hearing there is that, you know, making sure that you are using your position to amplify the things that are important to our youth today. And I also just want to throw in a little pitch for the Oregon mock elections. So part of getting our youth interested and excited about voting when they're younger is participating in things like mock elections, so that they understand and know what to expect when it comes to voting when they're able to. So I just want to really encourage folks who are in the room today to take that back to their school, or also those of you who are online, getting out to the schools in your community to really, you know, offer that to our educators as a way to get youth involved at younger and younger ages so that they're able to effectively participate in the voting process. And then I'm not seeing any other questions in the chat. So the last thing that I am gonna ask here is, you know, Chloe mentioned joining the youth council at the end of her presentation. And so I would love for either Chris or Celine to come and share just different ways that you can get involved with the youth council, whether you are in middle school, high school, college level, and that's just as their roles and as part of the youth council. So if you guys want to come up and share.
Who's first?
We can do this together. There's so many different ways to get involved with youth council, and that's why I was really excited to start working on this project. It's whatever you guys want. In any way you want to get involved, it's completely up to you. It's what you're passionate about and what you want to do within your social justice space and within the voter registration space. Yeah.
Yeah. We kind of, or you kind of get to pick what role you want, what title you want, and that's gonna, like I mentioned earlier, look good on a resume. But also you get to explore your passions. You get to talk to friends about voting. You get to network with really smart young people and adults in the youth space. And you have an amazing network of resources around you. So it's a great thing. And
you get a ton of opportunities. You can do advocacy in a number of ways and find a group of like-minded people who want to join in on the advocacy with you. So this workshop wouldn't have been possible without Deanie or Evan or every single one of you. So very thankful for you all for being here. But yeah, even if you don't, we have like one meeting a month in which we all just chime in on what we're working on at the time. Even if you don't attend that one meeting, you still get emailed opportunities and a ton of different information and resources. That is always important. It's always important to be educated about what's going on. So
yeah. And what ways can you guys help? You could bring it to a teacher at your school to organize mock elections within your social studies classes. And those can be incredibly educational and fun.
I know that Navy just got our entire school to do mock elections, which is super exciting. It's like over, I think, 1,000 students. So very excited for that.
And this organization that we're in, the League of Women Voters Youth Council, really helps you connect you to some incredible people. And I had one other point. Let me try to remember. Oh, well, me and Celine Celine and I won't be president and VP forever. So eventually that'll be like an incredible role that you could put on your resume if you decide to run for a position. Yeah.
Yeah, well, thank you guys so much and join the youth council.
And thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you everyone so much for coming today, whether in person or virtually. We are gonna wrap things up a little bit early and give some time back for that. I just want to thank Deanie for organizing and everybody who has participated in organizing this. It's been such a fun time working with Deanie to get this planned and get the information out to all of you. So thank you to Deanie. We also want to thank Oregon Humanities, the National Endowment for the Humanities, and the League of Women Voters of Oregon for providing the support that we needed to put these workshops, plural, on for you today. And thank you all so much for coming. We will be sending out after packets for those of you who attended with slides and information and things that you can take back to your community to reach out to young folks there. And then also for those of you in the room, please do not leave because we're going to do a couple of photos outside before we all take off. But thank you so, so much. And we will see you next time.